Alright, it's day 162 of this ginger germination experiment. There's more growth and Big Bertha here. You can see, a new leaf coming out of there. And this used to be the second tallest leaf, and no more. It's probably the fifth tallest. So some of the leaf edges have started to yellow again. Not sure what I'm doing wrong. This is kind of a fickle plant too. Maybe since the great transplant there's been too much sun, but it's late August. The sun is pretty brutal. It's a lot hotter, but ginger should like heat, so I'm thinking it should grow even faster. Regarding this plant from shoot system from plant number 2, it's taller now, and plant number 1 over here, it's grown a little bit more. And there's just a lot of yellowing, and I'm not sure if that has to do with me kind of pruning away the edges of the leaves with scissors. Not inclined to do that again because I'll just keep losing more and more green leaf mass. But this one from plant number 4, it looks pretty healthy. And let's see. And plant number 4 looks the healthiest in general. But there's growth elsewhere. Plant number 3, it's got this small offshoot, and that's still growing. So regarding the soil, there's some fungus gnats buzzing around. That doesn't really bother me because there's all this new soil. Undoubtedly it's full of fungus gnat eggs or something, or grubs. So I haven't seen any mushrooms yet. I've done a lot of watering with clean water. I've used fertilizer. Maybe that is not good for mushroom growth. Okay, it's day 166. I'd like to do some watering. There's a lot of capacity in there, but the soil's still wet. I'd still like to keep this as wet as possible though. A plant that can tolerate high humidity and watering. It's not really prone to overwatering. There's just been a lot of growth. Wow, this thing is really tangled in there. So I just freed this leaf here. I don't know why a lot of these leaf edges seem so burned. Obviously the trimming is just a cosmetic fix that only works for a very short while. And this plant here, has the 5 leaves, 6, coming out. So this is a new shoot system for plant number 4. So plant number 4 now has 5 shoot systems. I'm not going to rename it though. And regarding the new shoot system of plant number 2, I don't know why it has this tear. I never did anything like that. This is new, so I'll keep an eye out for any potential sources of damage. The only thing I can imagine is a bird. So there's some kind of infestation in my ginger pot. These little jumping things. I don't know why I can't just get a break here, but I'm gonna spray some beta-cyfluthrin right now and see if that kills everything. I mean, this is just utterly disgusting. I think the water pretty much drove them out, or I would have seen this earlier. So here's some more footage. I mean, there's some fungus gnats too. I don't care about them, but this is just a huge problem that needs to be taken care of. That's probably why the leaves are kind of yellowing all over. I mean, this is just nasty. Okay, it's day 168. I know that soil doesn't look dry at all, but I'm going to go ahead and use some regular vegetative growth solution in 2 liters of tap water to fertilize this. I heard, these yellowing edges could just be due to under fertilization, because when you keep watering normally, you're going to wash all the nutrients away towards the bottom of the water tray. The other thing I'm going to do is spray off with some distilled water. Sure, this helps raise the humidity, and it'll also wash the leaves off of any pesticide or other, fertilizer and whatnot.
So let's go over what happened 2 days ago while I spray these plants down. Basically, I watered and all these little white bugs came out of the soil. They were jumping around and I freaked because there were so many of them. I sprayed beta-cyfluthrin and some other pesticides, and these bugs didn't even flinch. But later on I sat down and thought about it and realized those were actually springtails, and I compared them to footage of springtails on YouTube and other sources. So those are actually safe. They're actually a sign of a very healthy soil ecosystem or condition. So I should just basically leave them alone. It's kind of disturbing that there's so many of them in there, but they're not like spider mites.
So you can see a new shoot coming up there.
Here's a 6th shoot system for plant number 4, and this is footage of the 5th shoot system that came out a few days before that. So growth is still occurring and it's very robust. However, I'm kind of worried about plant number 1, which only has 1 shoot system. And after I watered, basically more of these springtails started pouring out of the soil. I haven't ever seen anything like this, and it gets a lot worse in a few minutes, but these are basically harmless. So it turns out the bugs that I thought were springtails very early on in this ginger growing series, also in the honeydew series, among other series such as the sweet potato vine series, those were actually spider mites in very low populations. Springtails don't climb up the stalks and get onto the leaves and wander around aimlessly. That's what spider mites do. So spider mites are really problematic. They have mouthparts so small that they can pierce individual cell walls and suck out the cytoplasm of your plant cells like juice boxes. Springtails, on the other hand, eat decaying organic matter. I think I've read some reports that in very large numbers they could even attack the plant roots, but most people say no. So for the time being, I'm not too worried, and I don't really even know what I can do because they're so powerfully resistant to insecticides because they're not insects. But spider mites are also not insects, but they got killed by the beta-cyfluthrin, or perhaps the solvents that it was dissolved in. Springtails are hexapods. They're cryptozoa, no longer considered insects, and they're a very ancient lineage of animals.